Could Jamaicans soon travel to the UK without a visa? Welcome to episode 95. Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm joined by Sarah, and Rich is managing our soundboard. And today, we're going to explore that, drawing heavily on an exclusive interview that was published in the Jamaica Observer.
Right, the one with the British High Commissioner to Jamaica, Judith Slater.
Exactly. She's right at the center of this whole discussion, and her comments give us a real window into the UK perspective on potentially lifting those visa requirements.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look because, the High Commissioner's role is crucial.
How so? Explain that a bit.
Well, in a Commonwealth country like Jamaica, they're the UK government's top representative. It's not just symbolic.
Right.
They handle everything from high-level politics, trade, culture, and, yes, the very practical side of things like visas.
So what she says carries real weight. It's not just an opinion piece.
Definitely not. It
No.
reflects policy, it reflects ongoing diplomatic chats. It's the official view, essentially.
Okay, so let's get into the core issue. High Commissioner Slater called the visa requirement the thorn in the side of the bilateral relationship. Strong words.
Very strong. And this has been the case since, 2003?
That's right, 2003. And what makes her comments interesting now is the timing. This interview was just before she finished her term in mid-September.
So maybe a bit more candid, looking back on her time there.
Seems that way. A pretty frank assessment of this ongoing friction point between Kingston and London.
Yeah, and one thing she pointed out, which is maybe counterintuitive for some, is that most Jamaicans who actually apply for a UK visa do get approved. The vast majority, she said.
Okay, that is interesting. So it's not necessarily about widespread refusal for legitimate travel.
Exactly. It highlights this tension, you see. The thorn isn't always the denial, but maybe the feeling of the requirement itself, the perceived stigma.
Like a symbol of lingering distrust from the past.
Precisely. It seems to be more about the principle, the history, rather than just the practical hassle for every single applicant today. It taps into something deeper, emotionally.
That makes sense. The difference between the practical reality and the symbolic weight. So, if most applications are successful now, why did the UK bring in this requirement back in 2003? What was the trigger?
Okay, so the official documents from the time, specifically a 2003 British Home Office memorandum for Parliament, laid it out.
What did it say?
It cited, and I quote here loosely, compelling evidence. This evidence involved concerns about Jamaican nationals associated with criminal activity using the lack of a transit visa to enter and stay illegally.
Right, exploiting a loophole.
Yes, and also significant numbers who were overstaying their welcome and working illegally.
So specific concerns about illegal immigration and crime, not just general travel.
That was the stated rationale back then, yes. Very specific issues.
Which ties back to the High Commissioner saying, the actions of some sort of spoiled it for the rest of them back in 2003. That situation.
It really paints that historical picture, doesn't it?
So fast forward to today. What needs to happen for the UK to actually remove this requirement? What are the conditions?
Well, Slater was very clear on this. She said the UK would consider removing it if, and this is the key part, if individuals would refrain from overstaying and causing difficulties.
Okay.
And crucially, if the UK could be assured that that wouldn't happen.
So it really boils down to trust and compliance, assurance that the past issues won't repeat.
That seems to be the core message from the UK side. They need confidence, backed by evidence of changed circumstances and behavior. It's about immigration control.
And it's worth remembering, this isn't just about Jamaica, is it? The UK has visa rules for many countries.
Absolutely. She mentioned they recently put one in place for Trinidad, for example.
Right, so it's part of a wider UK border and immigration policy framework.
Exactly. And, acknowledging the current system, she did add that they try to make the application process itself smooth.
How so?
Well, she mentioned visas typically take about 3 weeks to process. Doesn't remove the thorn, but it's an attempt at practical efficiency, I suppose.
Okay, so that's the UK view. But what about Jamaica? Surely they're not just accepting this thorn. What's the Jamaican government doing?
Oh, no, they're definitely not passive. The High Commissioner confirmed the Jamaican government has made numerous approaches to get the requirement lifted.
At high levels.
Yes. She specifically mentioned ongoing talks with Foreign Minister Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith and also the Minister for Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahou Forte.
Right, so it's a consistent diplomatic push.
A major priority for Jamaica, clearly.
Now, you mentioned Minister Malahou Forte. Her angle is particularly interesting, focusing on access to justice. What's that about?
Yeah, this adds a whole other layer. It's about access to the Privy Council in London.
Which is still Jamaica's final court of appeal, right?
Correct. So for the most critical legal cases, people might need to travel to the UK for the final hearing.
And the visa requirement could theoretically block that. That's Minister Malahou Forte's concern.
That's the core of it, a potential clash between immigration rules and the fundamental right to justice at the highest level.
So how does the UK address that specific point?
Well, the High Commissioner said the UK has given a specific promise, an undertaking,
Which is?
that no Jamaican who needs a visa to go to the Privy Council will be denied one.
Okay, so they guarantee access for that specific purpose.
They guarantee the visa will be granted if needed for that purpose. But, she was careful to add, that's obviously not the same as saying you don't need a visa in the first place.
Ah, a subtle but important distinction. Facilitation, not waiver.
Exactly. It shows the balancing act respecting the judicial links while sticking to their immigration policy. It touches on bigger things like judicial sovereignty, colonial legacies.
Absolutely. So with all these talks happening, the history, the specific concerns, where are we now? Is there any actual movement?
According to the High Commissioner, it's not stuck. She said the issue has never been stalemated, and she actually thinks some progress has been made.
Really? What kind of progress?
Well, she did mention that a change in the UK government about a year ago caused a bit of a slowdown, which was frustrating.
Because they felt they were getting somewhere before.
Apparently so. But the good news, from her perspective, is that the new government has now committed to have a proper, serious look at it.
Serious look. Okay, that sounds cautiously positive.
It signals renewed engagement, at least. A willingness to properly consider it rather than just let it sit. The diplomatic door seems open.
But the big question remains, when might things actually change? Did she give any hint of a timeline?
No, she couldn't give a date. And, that's probably realistic.
Why that?
Because she stressed it depends on many factors being reviewed and, crucially, being seen to have significantly changed.
Changed regarding those original issues? Overstaying, crime?
Precisely. It's not a switch they can just flip. They need to see sustained, measurable evidence that the reasons for the visa requirement in 2003 are no longer valid concerns.
So the onus is partly on demonstrating that change has happened.
It seems that way, demonstrating compliance, rebuilding that trust factor.
You mentioned overstaying is critical for the UK. Let's just clarify for people listening, what exactly is overstaying in UK law and why is it such a big deal for them?
Good question. So most visitors get something like the standard visitor visa, right? Lets you stay up to 6 months for tourism, family, business visits.
Okay, temporary stays.
Exactly. Overstaying is simply staying longer than your visa allows. And in the UK, it's not just frowned upon. It is a criminal offense.
A criminal offense, yeah.
Yes, and the penalties reflect that. You could face detention, fines, and the big one is often a reentry ban.
Oh, I know.
It can be up to 10 years, a decade ban from entering the UK. So they take it very, very seriously. It undermines their whole system.
10 years is huge. Is there any leeway? Like if someone makes a genuine mistake or has an emergency?
There's a very small window. Generally, if you leave voluntarily within 30 days of your visa expiring, it might reduce the risk of the harshest penalties.
Might, not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed. It doesn't erase the overstay. And for late applications while already overstaying, that's only considered in truly exceptional circumstances.
Like what?
Like a documented medical emergency stopping you from leaving, or maybe a sudden bereavement. You need solid proof of a valid crisis. It's not a loophole for routine delays.
So the message is, take visa expiry dates extremely seriously.
Absolutely. The system is strict for a reason from their perspective.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together. What does all this mean for you, the listener? We've got this long-running diplomatic friction, this thorn.
Yeah, rooted in very specific history from the early 2000s, those concerns about overstaying and crime.
And there's a path to removing it, but it's conditional. It depends on demonstrating significant change in behavior, building assurance.
And that process is ongoing, not stalled, but there's no quick fix, no definite date on the horizon. It's about managing tensions, slow progress.
It really highlights how these visa rules work, doesn't it?
It does. It shows these regimes are often under fairly constant review. Countries like the UK are always balancing border control, national security, immigration management.
And against maintaining good relationships and allowing legitimate travel.
Exactly. It's complex. There are criteria, data, politics, all feeding into decisions about who needs a visa and who doesn't. It makes you think about that balance between security and openness.
So thinking about those conditions Judith Slater mentioned, refraining from overstaying, giving the UK assurance. It leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it?
Which is?
What would actually count as proof of significant change? What's the measure that would genuinely convince the UK the risks are gone? And what does that say about trust and rebuilding it between nations with such a long, intertwined, and sometimes difficult history?
Yeah.
How long does that take?